The Civil Rights Movement, 1950s to 1960s, USA. The Civil Rights Movement was a pivotal era in United States history, deeply rooted in the centuries-long struggle of African Americans to achieve true equality in a society marred by systemic racism and segregation. Initiated by the brutal realities of the Jim Crow laws in the South, which enforced severe racial segregation, the movement sought to dismantle the legal and societal barriers that denied African Americans their rights as citizens. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and many others emerged, not only as symbols of unwavering courage but also as strategists who used nonviolent protest and civil disobedience as powerful tools for change. These protests included famous acts like the Montgomery bus boycott, which began in 1955 after Rosa Parks famously refused to give up her seat to a white passenger, and the March on Washington in 1963, where King delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. The movement's significant achievements include the passing of landmark laws such as the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which removed barriers to voting for African Americans and enforced federal oversight of voter registration. Yet, the impact of the civil rights movement goes beyond these legislative victories. It reshaped the fabric of American society, influencing generations and inspiring other marginalized groups to fight for their rights. It demonstrated the power of collective action and moral resistance, setting a precedent for how moral righteousness, backed by organized and persistent activism, can challenge the status quo and foster profound social change. The suffrage movement, late 19th early 20th century, global. The suffrage movement was a monumental global crusade that fought for women's right to vote and participate in politics. It spanned various countries, each with its unique battles and timelines, but unified by a common goal: to challenge and dismantle the deeply entrenched beliefs and legal barriers that excluded women from the electoral process. In the United States, figures like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton spearheaded initiatives, organizing protests, and writing extensively about women's rights. Their efforts culminated in the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution in 1920, which granted American women the right to vote. In the United Kingdom, the movement was marked by more militant actions, led by Emmeline Pankhurst and her daughters, who organized marches and were often arrested for their confrontational tactics. British women over the age of 30 gained the right to vote in 1918, which was extended to all women in 1928. The suffrage movement was characterized not only by its fight against voting exclusions but also by its broader challenge to the societal norms that dictated women's roles in the public and private spheres. It questioned and pushed against the patriarchal structure that was rigidly in place, advocating for gender equality. This movement's legacy is profound. It not only transformed societal laws and norms allowing for greater participation and representation of women in governance but also ignited discussions on wider gender-related issues, leading to subsequent feminist movements. It demonstrated the effectiveness of persistence in activism, the importance of resilience in the face of societal and institutional resistance, and the potential for legislative change to catalyze societal progress.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
The Anti-Apartheid Movement, 1950s to 1990s, South Africa. The anti-apartheid movement was a formidable struggle against the system of apartheid in South Africa, a legally enforced regime of racial segregation and discrimination that profoundly marginalized the non-white population. This movement was not only a fight against local injustices, it also captured global attention, becoming a symbol of the broader struggle against racial oppression. At the heart of this movement were figures like Nelson Mandela, Oliver Tambo, and Desmond Tutu, who became international icons of resistance. Their leadership galvanized not only South Africans but also people and governments worldwide to take a stand against apartheid. The movement utilized a variety of tactics, from peaceful protests and strikes to economic boycotts and armed resistance, as seen in the activities of Umkhonto we Sizwe, the armed wing of the African National Congress, ANC. One of the most significant aspects of the anti-apartheid movement was its ability to garner international support. Global actions included economic sanctions, cultural boycotts, and sports bans against South Africa, which put considerable pressure on the apartheid regime. This international dimension was crucial in weakening apartheid and eventually led to the regime's dismantling. In 1994, when apartheid was officially dismantled, and Nelson Mandela was elected as South Africa's first black president, it marked a monumental victory for the anti-apartheid movement. This achievement was not just a local victory but a global testament to the power of unified, international resistance against injustice. The movement not only reshaped South African society but also left a lasting legacy on the world stage, showing that systemic oppression could be overcome with perseverance, solidarity, and moral courage. The labor movement, late 19th century onwards, global. The labor movement emerged as an essential force for change amidst the harsh realities of the Industrial Revolution, where workers faced exploitative conditions, long hours, and inadequate wages. This movement's roots can be traced back to the rapid industrialization of the 19th century, which fundamentally changed the nature of work and significantly impacted workers' lives. At its core, the labor movement sought to challenge the power imbalances between employers and employees. It aimed to secure better working conditions, fair wages, and more humane treatment of workers. Unions became the primary vehicle for these efforts, providing a collective voice for workers in industries that had previously seen them as expendable parts of the production process. Significant milestones of this movement include the establishment of the 8-hour workday, the improvement of safety standards in workplaces, and the introduction of benefits like health insurance and pensions. These were not just victories in terms of labor rights but also crucial steps towards recognizing workers as deserving of rights and respect. The labor movement also played a pivotal role in shaping political policies and promoting social welfare. In many parts of the world, labor parties emerged, influencing governmental policies and advocating for laws that protect workers. The movement's impact can be seen in legislation related to child labor, minimum wage, and anti-discrimination in employment. Today, the labor movement continues to adapt to new challenges, such as globalization, the gig economy, and technological changes that disrupt traditional work patterns. Its ongoing struggle is a testament to the movement's resilience and its crucial role in ensuring that the dignity of labor is recognized and that the rights of workers are protected in changing economic landscapes. The environmental movement, 1960s onwards, global. The environmental movement began to gain significant traction in the 1960s, a period marked by a growing public awareness of the planet's fragility and the profound impact of human activities on the natural world. This movement is characterized by its broad scope, addressing issues from pollution and biodiversity loss to climate change and resource depletion. One of the foundational moments in the environmental movement was the publication of Rachel Carson's Silent Spring in 1962, which exposed the dangers of pesticide use, particularly DDT, to wildlife and humans. This book is often credited with launching the modern environmental movement by highlighting the links between pollution and public health and inspiring widespread public concern. The movement has since encompassed a wide range of activities, from grassroots activism and environmental justice campaigns to lobbying for comprehensive policies that aim to protect the environment. Key achievements include the establishment of Earth Day, the formation of influential environmental organizations like Greenpeace and the World Wildlife Fund, and the signing of international agreements such as the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. Environmental activism has also seen a significant evolution in its approach. Initially focusing on conservation and the prevention of pollution, it now addresses broader issues such as sustainable development, renewable energy adoption, and systemic change to mitigate climate change. This shift reflects a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of global environmental issues and the need for comprehensive strategies that encompass economic and social dimensions. The movement's impact is profound, shifting how corporations conduct business, influencing governmental policies, and reshaping individual behaviors worldwide. As the threat of climate change becomes more pressing, the environmental movement continues to be a critical force in advocating for a sustainable future, demonstrating the power of collective action in affecting global change. The gay rights movement, late 20th century onwards, global. The gay rights movement, an integral part of the broader struggle for LGBTQ+ rights, focuses on achieving equal rights and social acceptance for individuals who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. Emerging prominently in the late 20th century, this movement has sought to confront and dismantle the legal and cultural barriers that have historically marginalized LGBTQ+ individuals. The Stonewall riots of 1969 in New York City marked a significant turning point for the movement. These riots were a response to a police raid at the Stonewall Inn, a popular gay bar, symbolizing a broader fight against systemic oppression and discrimination. This event catalyzed the modern LGBTQ+ rights movement, leading to the establishment of various advocacy groups and the initiation of annual Pride marches, which have now become global phenomena. Key battles of the movement have included the fight against the criminalization of homosexual acts, the struggle for marriage equality, the right to serve openly in the military, and protections against discrimination in employment, housing, and other areas of public and private life. Significant milestones have been achieved, such as the legalization of same-sex marriage in numerous countries around the world and the repeal of "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" in the United States. The gay rights movement has also fostered an important dialogue about the nature of sexual orientation and gender identity, challenging traditional norms and promoting a broader acceptance of diversity. It emphasizes the importance of equal rights under the law, as well as the right to live without fear of persecution or discrimination. Moreover, this movement has highlighted intersectionality, recognizing that individuals may face layered discrimination based on race, gender, socioeconomic status, and more. This awareness has broadened the scope of the movement, pushing towards a more inclusive approach to human rights. The ongoing fight of the gay rights movement showcases the resilience and determination of the LGBTQ+ community and their allies. It continues to push boundaries, challenge prejudices, and seek justice and equality, making it a pivotal chapter in the ongoing story of human rights advocacy. The anti-slavery/abolitionist movement, 18th to 19th century, global. The anti-slavery or abolitionist movement was a pivotal campaign that aimed to end the practice of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. This movement was not just a fight against the bondage of individuals but a wider battle against the moral and economic systems that supported such practices. During the 18th and 19th centuries, activists in Europe, the Americas, and beyond rallied to challenge the deeply ingrained institution of slavery, which was integral to the economies of many countries, particularly in the production of commodities like sugar, cotton, and tobacco. Key figures such as Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and William Wilberforce became symbols of resistance, using their voices and actions to reveal the brutal realities of slavery and mobilize public opinion against it. Their efforts were complemented by various methods of protest, including literature, lawsuits, and public speeches that exposed the inhumanity of slavery and pressed for its abolition. The movement achieved significant victories, such as the British Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 and the Emancipation Proclamation in the United States in 1863. These legal successes not only freed many enslaved people but also marked a crucial step towards recognizing the universal rights of all human beings. The legacy of the abolitionist movement continues to influence contemporary discussions on human rights and justice. The pro-democracy movement, 20th century onwards, global. The pro-democracy movement represents a global effort to advocate for democratic governance and ensure that power resides with the people through fair and free elections, freedom of expression, and the rule of law. This movement is crucial in regions where authoritarian regimes suppress political freedoms and hinder democratic processes. Pro-democracy activists strive for political systems where citizens can participate meaningfully in the decision-making that affects their lives. The movement gained significant momentum in the late 20th century, notably highlighted by events such as the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 and the subsequent collapse of communist regimes in Eastern Europe. These events demonstrated a clear shift towards democratic values. More recently, the Arab Spring of 2011 showcased how demands for democracy could ignite mass movements across different nations, though with varying outcomes. Pro-democracy movements often face severe repression, yet they persistently seek reforms through peaceful protests, advocacy, and by building international coalitions to exert pressure on authoritarian governments. The movement's impact is profound, as it not only fights for political rights but also promotes other freedoms that support a democratic society, including the protection of minorities and the establishment of accountable governance. The disability rights movement, 20th century onwards, global. The disability rights movement arose to challenge societal barriers and discriminatory practices that prevent people with disabilities from living full, independent lives. Rooted in the broader civil rights struggles, this movement seeks equal opportunities in education, employment, and access to public spaces and services. Activists like Judy Heumann and organizations such as the Independent Living Movement have been pivotal in pushing for legislative and social changes that respect the rights and dignity of disabled individuals. In the late 20th century, significant legislative achievements such as the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, of 1990 in the United States and similar laws in other countries marked milestones. These laws mandated reasonable accommodations in the workplace, accessibility in public buildings, and non-discrimination in various aspects of public life. The movement uses a variety of strategies, including lobbying, legal challenges, and public awareness campaigns, to fight against the exclusion and stigmatization of people with disabilities. Moreover, the movement emphasizes the philosophy of "nothing about us without us," promoting the idea that policies and decisions impacting people with disabilities should actively involve members of that community. This shift towards empowerment and self-advocacy reflects a broader cultural change from viewing disability through a lens of pity or medical deficiency to one of rights and inclusion. The animal rights movement, 20th century onwards, global. The animal rights movement advocates for the ethical treatment of animals, challenging their use in experiments, entertainment, agriculture, and other industries. This movement is grounded in the belief that animals are sentient beings deserving of rights and protection from suffering and exploitation. Influential philosophers like Peter Singer and Tom Regan have argued that animals have intrinsic value and moral rights, which should be recognized and respected by humans. From the late 20th century, this movement has gained traction, influencing public perceptions and leading to changes in laws and corporate practices. Campaigns against factory farming, animal testing, and fur trading are some of the focal points. Activists employ strategies ranging from legal action and lobbying to public demonstrations and undercover investigations to expose cruelty and push for reforms. The movement has seen successes such as the banning of cosmetic testing on animals in several countries and the growth of vegan and cruelty-free product markets. However, it also faces challenges, including pushback from powerful industries and cultural traditions that normalize animal use. By promoting the concept of animal welfare and rights, the movement not only seeks to protect animals but also to foster a more compassionate and sustainable relationship between humans and the natural world.